This is Alan Freedman with Michael Burd, and whenever he visits Australia, it's always a delight to catch up with Professor Efraim Inbar from the Jerusalem Institute of Strategy and Security. And he joins us now. Efraim, welcome to Australia. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. I'm always happy to be here.
Okay, Efraim, can we start with the political scene in Israel? Does it look like you will be having another election in the near future?
Well, I'm not sure. The coalition doesn't have a majority, but the glue that brings everybody together is, of course, the fear that Netanyahu will come back. So as long as he is hoping to be again Prime Minister, I think they'll try to stick together. And I think also most of the people in Israel don't want another election. So they're tired already of elections. So we'll see. This is, of course, a distinct possibility, elections, but in the meantime, they try to mend their fences and to buy off everybody that has any thoughts of leaving the coalition.
So, and what's the status of the coalition at the moment? Is it stable? There was the speaker left, and that destabilised the coalition.
They have 60 Knesset members that support the coalition so far. This is not the ideal situation, of course. They prefer to have 61. But so far it functions. And I don't know what will happen in the future.
Okay, Michael.
Efraim, last year you wrote that war between Israel and Iran is inevitable. Do you believe this is still the situation?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the Iranians are progressing. As Defense Minister Gantz said, they are within weeks from enough fissionable material for a bomb. And I don't think that Israel can afford allowing Iran to get so close to the nuclear bomb. So it is only a question of making the right preparations. It appears that for 2 years Israel neglected making the right preparations for an attack on Iran because of the many elections we had. And now the government allocated money for such preparations. Israel established a command, a special command for this mission. And it's clear that we are preparing for this contingency.
What about the Biden involvement, the administration's involvement with the JCPOA deal? What's happening? What's the latest with that?
They are trying desperately to get a deal. They want the Iranian issue to be off their foreign policy agenda. And we'll see if they are indeed ready to concede to the last Iranian demand of removing the militias, Islamic militias, from the terrorist list. And if not, I'm pretty sure that the Iranians will not skip an opportunity to get an agreement that will legitimize basically their program and will make it more difficult for Israel to attack and get a nice sum, at least $100 billion.
Can Israel, would Israel need the approval of the Americans in order to do something in Iran? Or would they just say, no, we're going to do what's in our best interest?
I think Israel is an independent nation. We never ask the Americans what to do. Sometimes we'll tell them before, sometimes we'll tell them after what we did. But Israel has clearly announced that it reserves the right to pursue its own interests, even if a nuclear agreement is signed. We want to keep our freedom of action. And actually, this freedom of action is enhanced by the fact that the Americans are leaving the Middle East.
The Iranians are very unlucky. They seem to have people dying, in strange circumstances. There was another one recently. Yeah. So, does the government talk much about this?
The Israeli government doesn't talk. It shouldn't talk. It should do. And we see some, probably result of some of the actions. And no, I don't feel any particular sympathy for what's happening in Iran.
No. And in terms of the war with Ukraine, Israel is walking a very fine line between Russia and Ukraine. How is this relationship going at the moment?
First of all, we should be aware that it's not only Israel that has this type of policy of hedging its bets in this situation. It's also India, Mexico, Brazil, other countries. Actually, the Institute conducted a dialogue with senior Russians, and it is clear that the Russians are appreciating the Israeli independent policy that is not following exactly the American line. And we have common interests with them, and I think the relationship so far is correct. There was one instance in which Foreign Minister Lavrov made an anti-Semitic comment, and we know that Putin retracted.
Yeah, I think Ukraine wanted some anti-tank missiles, Spike, if that's the correct term, and Israel refused. I just noticed that's the latest information.
The Americans are not happy about it. They wanted them to supply those missiles.
I think the Americans have difficulties producing, manufacturing enough missiles for different missions. They want us to do it, but I think the Israeli policy of not supplying military equipment is the correct one. We have Russia is a neighbor in Syria, and the Ukrainians have forgot that Russia could be a dangerous bear. We have not forgotten it, so I think we should be cautious.
We had the new Ukrainian ambassador to Australia here a couple of weeks ago, and there was some discussion at the time about the relationship between Israel and Ukraine. A lot of people bring up the past, which is not very pretty. How do Israelis view the relationship with Ukraine?
I think Israelis, as many others in the world, understand that many Ukrainians undergo much suffering, and the country is being partly destroyed by the Russians. But having said that, the government, I think, has solid support for its independent policy vis-à-vis Russia and Ukraine. We should be drawn into this conflict.
And that's notwithstanding that Ukraine does not support or has not supported Israel at the United Nations. Out of all the resolutions, they haven't voted once for Israel. So the Israeli government doesn't hold that against Ukraine.
We don't feel any debt, moral or other one toward Ukraine. I think Ukraine foreign policy was mistaken in not being cautious enough, living next to such a big power like Russia. And it is a pity that the Ukraine leadership is not more forthcoming towards the Russians and bring destruction upon their state.
What do you see as happening in that particular war? Do you see it just being a long, protracted war? What's going to happen there? Any idea?
Of course, I don't know what the future will be.
No.
It seems to me that the Americans are fighting Russians until the last Ukrainian. I think also that the Russians have plenty of time. After all, the Americans have no intention of intervening in the war. So the Russians take their time until they'll try to get some kind of achievement or victory. And with the lack of flexibility on part of the Ukrainian side, this war may continue.
Do you think the Europeans did enough or are doing enough to help Ukraine? This is really in their backyard.
I think the Europeans, first of all, had an awakening, realizing that the belief that they live in a paradise or in the messianic days is wrong, and they start to arm themselves. And it is quite clear that they have no legal or moral obligation to intervene, as Ukraine is not part of NATO. So it's they are doing a lot. They of course, providing humanitarian.
Apart from boots on the ground, they're doing a lot. Yeah.
Right. So that's it.
Okay, Efraim, just to finish off, can you please tell us what your institute is doing and how can we in the diaspora in Australia help?
Well, I think the institute is continuing to be very active on the Israeli scene. First of all, we are a very important conservative voice in the political debates in Israel. We are the only think tank that promotes a united Jerusalem, for example, and we are also conducting in that respect geopolitical tours of Jerusalem in order to clarify to people that join those tours, be it media or diplomats. We are booked by many diplomats that come abroad, especially for this tour. The facts on the ground. We are conducting dialogues with important countries. I mentioned our dialogue with Russians, but we have a dialogue with Indian think tanks. We have excellent relations with, of course, our Greek and Cypriot partners. So we are part of the Bnei International established Hellenic Forum, and we are actually the pioneers in that respect. And of course, we publish regularly our views. We have an excellent group of researchers, probably the best in the country. And I wish Jews in the diaspora, first of all, to subscribe to our newsletters. And of course,
how did they do that?
Simply go to the website and register.
Which is?
JISS.org.il. And of course, we will not object to financial support.
Efraim, you touched on something just before we finished. You mentioned the United Jerusalem, which we in the AJA fully agree with. And it caused me to think about the two-state solution. And we're probably one of the few organisations, or the only one in this country, that says the two-state solution has been a failure. We need to think of other options. What's your institute's view of the two-state solution, and how do you and what do you say to people when they quote that as the only formula for peace in the Middle East?
In a few words.
Basically, I think there is unanimity of views at our institute that the Palestinians are not ripe for peace, and they have enough energy to continue the conflict. And therefore, the real only option is to manage the conflict in order to reduce or limit the bleeding on both sides, hoping that maybe in the future we'll see a more responsible leadership among the Palestinians that can be a partner to peace. So far, this didn't happen.
Okay.
Okay, Efraim, it's wonderful to have you again. Nice to see you. If you like what the AJA does, you'll certainly like what the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security does. So we encourage you to visit the website, to JISS.org.il. Okay, that's the place to go. Please do what you can. And Efraim, we look forward to visiting you in Israel next time. We're well overdue, and I think people are starting to go back now, so it's definitely something.
Come on our geopolitical tour of Jerusalem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Efraim Inbar from the Jerusalem Institute of Strategy and Security. Bye for now.